This is the Kratom Science Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gallagher, blog and social media writer for KratomScience.com, your source for all things Kratom. Kratom consumers are being threatened in Mississippi. A task force made up of law enforcement officers is lobbying county and town councils in an effort to ban Kratom. They are called the Lowndes County Crime and Addiction Task Force. Their efforts have resulted in bans in dozens of towns and counties, mostly in northeast Mississippi. Representatives tied to big pharma are trying to ban Kratom statewide. Our guest this week wishes to remain anonymous. She fears that by exercising her First Amendment rights in favor of Kratom, she'll face some form of backlash from the powers that be. Why do you want to be anonymous? That's my first question.
Well, just for safety reasons, mainly. I don't want to be anonymous. I would love nothing more than just to say what I want, but I don't know. I guess you would just have to kind of be from around here to fully understand, maybe. And, I just don't want to pick a fight with, a newly elected sheriff and, people like that.
So that's kind of dangerous to do that, because it's kind of
right.
Northeast Mississippi is kind of like a bunch of small towns together and county councils and whatnot.
Right.
Do you think they'll come after you or something, or?
I have no idea. I really don't put anything past them at this point,
What is it about Mississippi that's different from other states?
Yeah, I guess this is hard for people to really understand. It's probably something that you would just have to be here to really understand. Mississippi gets a lot of bad press, and it deservedly, okay. But what people don't know is there's a lot of good, truly good people here. The thing is, it's rural and it's poor, and people are just spread out, so it's not easy to connect with like-minded people or whatever, and it's even harder to get anybody to talk about stuff. There was an article, I think the Clarion Ledger or one of the Jackson papers did 2018 about the Monroe County Sheriff. He did this roundup and arrested a bunch of people, and they did this whole story on it, and they went to Aberdeen and they was trying to interview people, just normal citizens, just asking them about Aberdeen, and none of them would talk. None of them wanted to say anything. And so that's another thing that's hard here. That, I don't know if, surely it's not like that everywhere. That's got to be unique to Mississippi, is just not talking. People just want to be left alone. Don't make any problems, and they won't mess with you. You'll kind of get to live in peace, is the mentality. And also, it's a deeply, religious state. And so I think everybody's kind of grown up to be taught not to question God or their religion in any way. So if somebody comes and wants to spew propaganda and they use somehow the church or religion or something like that, then the people are sold on it. They automatically believe them and wouldn't question it.
Yeah, that's just a shame that you can't feel like you can exercise your First Amendment rights without getting retribution for it, which is
right.
Everybody feels that in a way, but it sucks that that's just the climate there. But which is why I appreciate what you're doing, because it probably takes more bravery than it would take for me. So let's try to tell the story for everybody who doesn't know. Now, there's a task force that's made up of law enforcement called the Lowndes County Crime and Addiction Task Force, and they've been going around spreading anti-Kratom propaganda and actively trying to get it banned. They are working to do this. They meet with county councils and town councils, and they've been successful in getting a lot of bans up there and on northeast Mississippi. Why do you think they're doing this? What's their reason for trying to get Kratom banned down there?
I personally think, just because of the timing and everything, I personally think this has something to do with medical marijuana here. It just so happens that in 2019, when the task force really started doing this, was the year that the medical marijuana ballot initiative needed signatures to try to get it on the ballot in 2020. And whenever I looked into the two legislators from Lowndes County that actually sponsored the Kratom bill to get it banned, they were on the steering committee of the medical marijuana initiative. And so I thought that was really, really weird how they could, be against one plant but support another, especially when they're supporting the one that's illegal and not the illegal one. It was just really weird to me, and the timing of it all. I really think that's probably the reason behind the aggressiveness.
That is interesting. That's very interesting. Do you think there's some kind of donation thing, money behind it that wants to ban one and control the other? Is it just because it's law enforcement and they want something to justify, their existence in a sense?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of people probably that have motives in this. I know the medical marijuana obviously will be prescription only, which will be doctor prescribed, which that benefits that industry. And also, it wouldn't take away from the incarcerations, because people that don't have the medical marijuana card would still get in trouble. Nothing would really change on that. And I could see why they would want Kratom to go away, I guess. But I think, like, with all the states legalizing marijuana, like just outright legalizing it, I think maybe Mississippi decided they better get control on this, medically, prescription-wise, before it maybe gets legal, and that way they can benefit. And with the medical marijuana, Mississippi's is going to be a little different. They're going to allow kind of like a free market on who can grow it. They're pretty much saying anybody that gets approved can grow it. I mean, it can only be dispensed in certain places, but they're saying free market on growing it, and that they made they learned from other states' mistakes that way. So it just seems to benefit, it's going to benefit a lot of people, and probably some of the not well-connected people won't be able to get involved with that.
The Lowndes County Crime and Addiction Task Force, what do you know about them and the members involved? And I know we talked about Eddie Hawkins, who was just like the sheriff of Lowndes County, and Tammy Reynolds is another law enforcement person down there. They were essentially a group of law enforcement people that are trying to get Kratom. What do you know about the backgrounds of this task force?
Okay, well, the Lowndes Community Foundation, I know they had this big meeting in 2018, everybody that was in this foundation, and they all came up with these task forces based on the needs of the community or whatever. And what I read in one of I think it was the Commercial Dispatch, was that their biggest concern was education. But, I don't see an education task force going around aggressive like the crime and addiction one. So that's really weird. But the Lowndes Foundation, I know their co-chair is, or the vice chair, he's the vice president of Dutch Oil Company, I think, which is, they own Shell gas stations in one side of the building, and the other side, it's pharmacies. So that's weird too. But, and then Eddie, I think, he just felt like the sheriff, and then they have the Mississippi Sheriff's Association. I don't know for sure that they're in the Lowndes Foundation, but I do know that they're essentially a lobbying group too. And I read in the Jackson Free Press that they get money, sheriffs get money from inmates, basically. And so that would kind of be a conflict of interest, why he would want to make Kratom a criminal. I mean, he would stand to benefit from that. And then other members of the task force, one of them is a retired orthopedic surgeon, which I'm sure he prescribed opioids. it just seems like they all have something to gain from this. And Captain Reynolds, she is like the MBN head of I don't know how many counties, but
And
um,
MBN is Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. That's like their state. That's like the state DEA
right,
there, right? Yeah.
yes, yeah,
And
and
they were
she
both of them. I think Eddie Hawkins and Tamara Reynolds were in the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. I don't know if they are
right.
now, or maybe she still is.
Yeah, she's still the captain, and she's also, I don't know if she still is, but her and then the NBN state director, or former, I think he just retired or resigned, John Dowdy. Her and John Dowdy were
That's right.
actually appointed to Governor Bryant's heroin and opioid task force, those two in particular. And John Dowdy is another one that's very outspoken about wanting kratom to be banned as well. Yeah,
It's really kind of striking that law enforcement is going around Mississippi trying to outlaw something so they could haul people into jail for a substance. It's really kind of like out in the open, and I think it was
yeah,
what county was it? I put a I don't know how to pronounce it. It was like
yeah,
Okataba County or something like that, or
yeah. Octibaha.
yeah, there
Yeah,
you go. The video, if you watch it, like anybody that studies the kratom issue and knows what kratom is and knows that pure kratom is safe and whatnot, watches that video and it's just like a bunch of silly propaganda. And but the people on the council don't know any better, you know. But it's
yeah.
really kind of a striking kind of
It
open
is.
out in the
It's
open corruption
crazy.
for a law enforcement group to go around
It,
and say we should arrest people for this and you should make it illegal in your county so we can arrest people. It's really kind of evil what they're
it
doing in
is.
Mississippi,
It
and I think
is.
anybody that listens to this who's from elsewhere should really pay attention to what's going on in Mississippi.
Yeah, that's another reason why I have to be anonymous
Yeah.
because I mean, if you see the video, then you kind of get it. Like they're, it's crazy.
This is Eddie Hawkins speaking at the Octibaha County Council in July of 2019. He recently was elected sheriff of Lowndes County, and he is one of the most outspoken members of the Lowndes County Task Force. Right here, he's pretty fast and loose with the facts. Right here, he even claims that kratom was banned in Tennessee, which is untrue. That was fought and defeated.
There were two bills introduced into the legislature last year trying to ban this substance statewide. For whatever reason, the legislature didn't pass this ban. It has been banned in Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, surrounding Mississippi, but for whatever reason, the two bills died in committee this year. I have a feeling it was because it's an election year and this is a controversial issue. But this is something that you as a government body can eliminate and take this drug threat out of your community. Take it out of the hands of kids. Now, as Glenn said, once they start using this drug, okay, their body starts to build up a tolerance. And now they have to have more and more of that substance to reach that desired effect. So they start spending their entire checks on these drugs. We've seen it destroy families. We've seen it destroy the people that are using these drugs. And this is something that we feel like is an important issue, important enough for us to go around city by city, county by county, and ask that these ordinances be passed until we can do something on the state level and get it banned statewide. So we're bringing this issue to you to ask you to consider this ordinance and see if we can't get it passed and take it out of this community. We've already banned it in several counties surrounding Octibaha.
They had this outrageous story. The dollar amount changes every time you hear it, but
Yeah.
it's like outrageous in the thousands, somewhere around 20,000 or something. And I know at the Lee County meeting, Captain Reynolds said something about a Lee County gas station that was selling, or they got busted for selling opioids and kratom on the books and pawning TVs. And she even went so far to say that women consumers, women customers were actually sleeping with the owner to get kratom.
Yeah.
It was insane. So my jaw was like on the floor, but I went and I tried to find this store, and the only store that I could find in Lee County in recent years, or that I've seen at all, was one, and it's somewhat true. A guy was selling opioids out of the gas station, but it was opioids. It wasn't kratom.
Yeah.
And around the area here, you don't really hear too much about kratom. But recently, I was in Jackson, and I heard about the gas station that had all of these thousands of dollars pawning. I heard about that, and it was supposedly a store in Jackson. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I don't know if that's just a rumor that's done spread. I mean, I just don't know. Or if I don't know.
I remember the store because we talked about this, and we looked at the store, and it was shut down because the guy was stealing drugs out of there, and he probably also sold kratom. But that is it's such like they attach kratom to that. Okay, the voice you will hear next is Glenn Lotzenheiser. He's the chair of the Lowndes County Crime and Addiction Task Force.
We are here today to ask you to take action on a very dangerous substance. And that substance is called kratom. This is highly addictive, it's dangerous, it's destroying lives, and it's destroying families. Last year in the state of Mississippi, we had 13 kratom-related deaths. About 2.5 months ago in the city of Oxford, Mississippi, a lady died from a kratom overdose. This is readily available, unless it's regulated or banned like we're asking you to do. This is readily available in convenience stores and gas stations. I wish I could take the time to tell you all the people that have reached out to us. We've had people reach out to us throughout the state of Mississippi and even as far away as Texas. There was a lady in Lowndes County whose husband went into a convenience store February of last year, and he bought this. It's in many different forms. I'm going to pass that around. That sells for about $20 to $25. Bought at a convenience store. And within 2 to 3 months, this man was so highly addicted to this stuff that he was spending $800 a week, if you can believe that. $800 a week on this. He had a great job with a major industry in Lowndes County. He lost his job. He lost his family. Totally destroyed his family.
Now, months ago when I was first contacted by Anonymous, we actually looked into this $800 a week habit. She actually contacted the man from the news story, and his story was very different from the claims that his wife made, his ex-wife. And it seems as though he actually had a heroin or opiate habit that he wasn't admitting to his wife. As far as the supposed kratom overdose death in Oxford, Anonymous has some other opinions about that.
So they started out with 11 deaths and 2 from kratom alone, which is, like I said, like identical from that report that came out in February. That's what they started with. And of course now the number is at 13, and I believe that the other 2 deaths, one of them was from Oxford, found out through news reports. They were talking about a lady in her 60s died at her house, and they found kratom at her house, and so they suspected that being involved.
Yeah.
And then you don't hear anything for a while, and then now, confirmed kratom overdose death. And it's interesting, the assistant police chief that got the kratom ban in Oxford, I saw a couple of weeks ago that he got promoted, so he's now the police chief. But so that's the number 12 death.
We were talking about earlier on text. What is this? ALEC. What is that? What does that stand for?
Alec sounds like the name of a high school lacrosse player who just got baked and wrecked his dad's Saab. But incredibly, it's actually even worse.
For more than 30 years, a private tax-exempt organization called the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, has brought state lawmakers, conservative think tanks, and corporate interests together to write model legislation to be introduced and passed in state houses across the country.
It's basically a conservative bill mill, which has helped develop model legislation from Arizona's notorious SB 1070 immigration bill to bills expanding private prisons, payday loan companies, and for-profit colleges.
It's American Legislative Exchange Council.
Okay, and they are trying to pass a law to ban Kratom through that or something like that. So what's your understanding of what's going on with that?
Well, I think it was Jackson Free Press News in December did this article about how our Speaker of the House, Mississippi Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, was just announced the national chairman for ALEC. And what it is, they're a nonprofit, and it consists of like a lot of corporations and including pharmaceutical companies. And basically, they have these backroom meetings with legislators, which Mississippi has a lot of members, and they have the corporations sit down with legislators behind closed doors, and they basically write these bills that I'm assuming would be corporation friendly, and they get the legislators to pass them through the state. Like Pfizer, pharmaceutical company Pfizer, they are a known ALEC member. And let's see, GlaxoSmithKline, they supposedly left ALEC in 2012. But they definitely used to be. And one of the co-sponsors for the Kratom bill in 2018, the one that Chuck Younger submitted, one of the co-sponsors, Senator Hob Bryan, he said in April of 2019 in an interview where he basically admits that he used model legislation and Kratom was one of them. Yeah, it's something that's written by ALEC.
Yeah.
And the Center for Public Integrity, along with USA Today, they actually have this thing where they've just composed all of these, like, tons and tons of bills to where they check for, like, the language, and you can just type in, I just typed in Kratom, like, search the keyword Kratom, and they match the exact language with other bills, and it was just, it was crazy. It showed all the Kratom ones that had been submitted in other states was, like, identical to the one that was submitted here. It also had some hemp bills and medical marijuana. I guess that, I don't know if that, the medical marijuana, I didn't really pay too close attention to it, but, they're doing the ballot initiative here. I don't know if it failed in the past, but the language was either the exact same or very, very similar to the Kratom bill. Like, so basically, they're saying that those were written by ALEC. Well, I do want to say this. I think Mississippi, especially in the northeast part, I think it's getting kind of a bad rap when it comes to the drugs. I think the drug problem is maybe a bit over exaggerated.
Yeah.
I know Northeast Mississippi is part of the Appalachian Regional Conference or Commission or something.
Yes.
And Tammy Reynolds is actually the governor appointed rep that's on the Substance Abuse Council there. Mm-hmm. Well, if you look through their data, I came across something that was talking about how all the counties and states compared with the rest of the country and the rest of Appalachia. And surprisingly, Mississippi was considered a bright spot. They had 5 counties, and we're talking not all of Mississippi, just the Northeast was a bright spot. It had 5 counties that was doing better than expected given the circumstances. And you look more into it, and they have poisoning deaths, which basically poisoning deaths is going to be your overdose deaths. And it says the poisoning mortality rate in Appalachian, Mississippi is 21% lower than the national rate and 7% lower than the rate in non-Appalachian Mississippi. So that's interesting. And I know everybody has drug problems. Yes, there are deaths. Yes, it's terrible. But again, I think maybe these are being exaggerated just a bit for whatever reason.
So, what does it look like? How many counties and towns is Kratom banned in Mississippi? And is there like a state bill?
Well, I'm not sure. I kind of lost count about the city and county list, and also they were saying places that had bans that actually didn't have bans when they said it. So I don't really know where and the exact number. I know Boonville, Mississippi, is having a public meeting coming up sometime this month, and I know the task force has now took their fight to South Mississippi. I know they went to Brookhaven, Mississippi, down near, I think, close to Jackson somewhere. So they have branched out now, and I think Eddie Hawkins said that they're trying to get it banned in the counties and stuff in case it doesn't go through in the state legislature next time. So, oh yeah, there's no doubt that there's going to be a Kratom bill proposed. I think they go back on the 7th or something. They go back to work. So, yeah, I'm pretty positive there'll be one.
You know, this is a weird thing to ask, but if Kratom gets banned, like, what are you gonna do? I mean, do you just go out? You know, I mean, I don't want to I don't want you to say that you're gonna do anything illegal, but it's kind of like,
right.
You know, it turns people into criminals. That's what it turns, like, regular law-abiding people into criminals, which is why it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, I think what people will have to do is just move. I've spoken with other people that have said that that's what they'll do, and so that's probably what we'll do.
Yeah, that's a shame. That is a shame. I mean, you got to move away from your homes, and because of a tea, you know, it's really.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you so much for sending me all this information about it and being up and just being a good citizen. Seriously, like, we need citizens like you everywhere. And
I've seen what it does for people. I mean, it helps people. And then when you just hear the task force, it's sad, but it makes me sick. It makes me mad. I don't know how anybody could know the truth and then hear that and not say something.
Thanks to my guest, Anonymous from Mississippi. Music is by Risey. The song is called Memories of Thailand. For more information on all things Kratom, visit kratomscience.com. Take care.